Okay, so good afternoon to all. Here in Portugal it's 3 a.m. So I'm presenting this article by one of my PhD students, Rui Coelho, who has already delivered the thesis, is waiting for the defense, and this is part of his PhD thesis. This is a joint work with other two supervisors, Luís Pacheco and João Pinto, both also, we are all from Portugal. So, in summary, using data on public European firms that issued green bonds between the 2013-2021 period, we try to explore the impact of green bond issuance on firms' economic benefits, financial performance, environmental score, and also value creation. And we find that the issuance of corporate green bonds has become increasingly prevalent in industries in which the natural environment has significant financial implications. We use the propensity score matching differences in difference model, and we found that the issuance of green bonds positively influenced not only firms' characteristics like profitability, size, financial value, but also the environmental score and the environmental, social, and governance value creation. Results also suggest that our findings are unlikely to be driven by a cost of capital argument, namely that firms assessing cheaper borrowing sources through this. So, as for the main motivation, corporate green bonds were essentially non existent before 2013. Since then, the issuance of corporate green bonds has skyrocketed in a trend termed the green bond boom by Morgan Stanley. According to Refinitiv Deals intelligence reviews in 2021, green bond issuance totaled for 188 billions, nearly double than the value it was prevalent in 2020. Europe is one of the largest green bond market with 1.1 trillion of green bonds issued in 2022, of which non-financial firms issued 25%. But the green bond market still represents only 8.9% of the overall bond market in 2022. And so we thought that further analysis on how this asset class works are still needed. And why firms use green over traditional corporate bonds was our main motivation in the entire thesis of Rui. There is a vast literature on why investors buy green bonds. Arguments on why firms issue such bonds are still lacking. Although corporate green bonds have become increasingly prevalent, our knowledge of these new financial instruments still remain limited. Intuitively, it may seem quite intriguing for firms to issue or secure green financing over conventional financing, considering that green financing resources are dedicated to green projects, so this will limit firms' investment policies. To qualify as a certified green bond, firms require the third-party opinion to confirm that the proceeds are allocated to projects that really yield environmental benefits and thus incur an extra administrative and compliance costs as well. This work tries to extend the existing literature in two main ways. We focus on the impact and potential advantages of corporate commitment to environmentally responsible practices within the context of green bonds. The existing literature, as far as we are aware, focuses on the motivations for issuing these green bonds related to cost of capital, liquidity, and secondly, the literature uses databases that mix financial and non-financial firms entities with very different characteristics. Issues from various regions are also put together in the same sample, leading to conclusions that cannot be generalized as the level of maturity of the green bond market, the regulatory framework, and these vary significantly between regions. Um, Two authors demonstrated that European firms have a higher level of CSR than American firms, and to mitigate these problems, we try to focus only on a sample of European companies, and our sample includes only non-financial firms. As for the hypotheses we are testing here, we have two hypotheses. One, first, non-financial firms' environmental scores improve significantly after issuing green bonds, and non-financial firms with higher CSR ratings or ESG scores issue green bonds. Hypothesis two, are with respect to corporate green bond issuances that positively affect public firms' characteristics measured by turnover, assets, employees, and gender diverse directors, and the hypothesis that green bond issuances positively affect public firms' financial performance measured through their return on assets, return on equity, and earnings before interest and taxes, and also the operational cash flow. Green bonds have lower spreads vis-à-vis the conventional corporate bonds, constitutes our hypothesis 3. Our sample consists of individual bonds offers extracted from the DCM analytics, covers the 13-21 period, as I already said, and provide comprehensive information on the bond securities issued in debt capital markets. Information is available on several types of bonds. We include only those with a deal type code of corporate bond investment grade and corporate bond high yield. We also require securities to be issued by firms located in countries in the European Economic Area and the tranche size to be available. To consider possible outliers, we insonorize the data for transaction size, maturity, and spread at 1% and 9%, 99% levels. And these screens yield a full sample of 226 green bonds and 1,466 conventional bonds with a very similar, with a very disparate amount in terms of value. We classified as green bonds those bonds with a deal type code of green bond provided by DCM Analytics, and this classification was validated using the Climate Bond Initiative. The remaining bonds were classified as conventional, and for each bond issuance, DCM Analytics includes information like value, currency, maturity, coupon, and credit ratings. Other treatment of the data was performed in order to reach this final full sample of 226 green bonds and 1,466 conventional ones. In terms of our results or statistical analysis for now, we see from the full sample of corporate green and conventional bond issues by year, we see a significant expansion in corporate green bonds in recent years, with 2019, 2020, and 2021 representing significant increases in the number and value of green issues. The total value issued in green bonds in 2013 was only 1.4 billion, corresponding to one tranche only. It increased to 45.4, which is a huge increase until 2021. Table 2 presents evidence of the green bond allocation in mainly two key industries, utilities and energy, and real estate property. And corporate green bonds are more prevalent in sectors in which the environment is crucial to firm operations. Table 3 reveals that green bonds are majority concentrated in the three largest European economic countries, France, Germany, and Spain, which are also the largest issuers in the data sets. Table 4 provides a summary statistics of the full sample of for the 226 corporate green bonds, which corresponded to 83 issuing firms and 1,466 conventional bonds, which corresponded to 293 issuing firms. A given entity commonly issues several bonds each year, and as we can see, the number of conventional bonds issues continues to be considerably higher in number and value than green bond issues. In the first analysis of the full sample, corporate conventional bonds are significantly large, considering that the average issuance value is 844 million. The average term is 7 years against the 10 years of green bonds, which is a very huge difference. Considering the full sample, 85.4% of the conventional bond issues have a prefixed coupon and an average spread of 203. When compared to green bonds, 74.8% and 195.6%. The credit rating at the issue median is higher for green bonds based on the rating scales of Standard & Poor's and Moody's, and is similar to those of the Fitch agency as well. To investigate the existence of any premium spread like proxy in the issuance of corporate green bonds when compared to the traditional ones, we limited the sample to the fixed rate or prefixed coupon to obtain a subsample and results. We used the full sample of European public non-financial firms for which we obtained annual financial statements, ESG scores, and environmental scores to quantify the social responsibility and environmental performance of the considered firms for this 2013-2021 period. The accounting and market data of non-financial firms were extracted from DataStream or Refinitiv. DCM Analytics and DataStream do not have a common identification code, so we hand-matched the borrowers' names. Although we tried to investigate the corporate benefits of issuing green debt across Europe, some countries may be excluded due to a lack of data or green bonds issued. And our Table 5 provides detailed definitions and sources of all the variables used that I'm not going to pass all across here, but we have all these detailed in the article. And after applying the hand matching procedure, we identified 83 and 293 firms that issued green and non-green bonds in the full sample period. This table 6 provides the full sample univariate statistics at the firm level for the period analyzed for both non-green bond issuers and green bond issuers with respect to the variables that were presented in Table 5. The group consists only of non-financial European public firms that are bond issuers but not green bond issuers. Additionally, despite this strongly balanced data panel for the sample period, the analysis was conducted based on a variable univariate in accordance with the balanced propensity score matching criteria, which is why the number of observations may differ among the variables that we are observing. Regarding the ESG and the environmental score variables, we found that in the initial years of our sample, the number of firms reporting this information was small, with a more widespread practice from the middle of the sample. In terms of univariate statistics at the firm level for the sample period, the results show that environmental and ESG scores on average are higher in firms that issue green bonds. Financial performance measured by indicators like return on assets, return on equity, EBIT, and cash flow are also on average superior for firms that issue green bonds. In terms of characteristics, firms that issue green bonds on average have a larger total assets, turnover, market capitalization, debt, and gender diversity, but they have also fewer employees as compared to the others. Tables 6 and 7 show the characteristics at the firm and issue levels. Table 7 presents descriptive statistics comparing the issuance of green and non-green bonds, limiting the sample to fixed rate coupon bonds, which designed a subsample with 167 green bonds and 1,235 non-green bonds on a strongly balanced panel data for the sample periods. Going on, so in terms of the methodology, we use the propensity score matching, which was combined or applied using the difference in difference options. And these allow for a comparison of differences between the treatment group and the control group during specific periods before and after the certification. This difference is interpreted as the impact of the treatment, the issuance of green bonds on the studied variables, and is known as the average treatment effect on treated. Environmental materiality is at the industry level. We adjusted the comparison group by determining the averages for all comparison firms from the same industry and years. And considering the environmental score, the results in basis points seems to corroborate the views of several authors covered in the literature review, supporting our hypothesis 1A and B. But these findings are again consistent with the signaling argument, which defends certification as a costlier signal and reflects a stronger commitment to the natural environment. The results in Table 8 confirm or validate our hypothesis 1A. and respects to the green bonds during different issuance periods, and the environmental performance following the issuance of green bonds. Regarding the firm's corporate social responsibility as measured by the ESG score, we show that pre-issue and post-issue are positive, consistent, and statistically significant, and have been maintained over the years when compared to firms in the control and group. So we validate hypothesis 1B. As for the environmental performance following the issuance of green bonds, the rise in firm CSR after green financing can be explained by three different arguments. Green financing is typically issued to enable firms to participate in green or environmental protection projects. The issuance of green financing could potentially enhance access to funding sources, improving the efficiency of financial resource use, and assisting the firm in providing value-added products and services to society. And also, the issuance of green financing is favorable for establishing a positive corporate image. Taking into account the behavior of the indicators, the findings suggest that, particularly regarding financial performance indicators like return on assets, EBIT, and operating cash flows, firms that have issued green bonds exhibit a higher and statistically significant financial performance during the post-issuance period. So the results indicate that the treatment group experienced more significant increases in operational and financial performance than the control group. And this enhancement in operational and financial performance was consistently observed over the years. These results allowed us to validate hypothesis 2A. Moving on, when we try to answer hypothesis 3, is there a premium on corporate green bonds? For a given issue with tight matching criteria and fewer matches, the results seem to show that green bonds have no price advantage over brown bonds. The mean difference in terms of spread was 36.47%, and which was statistically significant, and this finding turns out to contradict the argument about the cost of capital, which suggests that green bonds are a cheaper source of debt financing. These results do not allow us to validate H3, and so we find no evidence to support that green bonds carry a premium compared with common corporate bonds. Um, uh, just to conclude, findings show a gradual increase in corporate green bond issuances, especially in the industries where the natural environment has significant financial implications, like the utilities or energy. And our model suggests that the issuance of green bonds has a consistent positive impact on firms' profitability and operational characteristics. And our evidence is inconsistent with the cost of capital argument, suggesting that the findings are unlikely to be driven by the cost of capital argument, which indicates that firms do not merely access cheaper sources of capital. So I think